Hello, this is another increment in the sculpting course now, or the sculpting, I called it a lesson set. Okay, if you go to the um, website, you know, what's the website called? Goes to wiki spaces here. You go and look at the discussion a little bit, and there's some videos, and this is going to be one of the videos. And then it says sculpting course, but this will be called sculpting course final. Okay, and then you open that, and when you open that, you have you have a completed version, and this model, this version that has the exercises. Now, here is the exercise for this one. The exercise involves the debt service reserve account that's funded. So, let's start with this. We have 6 months of debt service reserve account. Now, this debt reserve account, if you include the debt service reserve account, and let's for a moment assume that we kind of just have some flat cash flows. That really should be probably in this exercise. Well, I'll show you maybe why not. The amount of money in that debt service reserve account is just like in I'm saying like again, is in a checking account. And that checking account, when the debt is paid back to you. So if you've ever seen one of these graphs, there's a large blip in cash flow once the the debt service is finished. There's like an extraordinary dividend. I said like again, damn it. And that extraordinary dividend, why don't we just use that to pay down the debt? And that's indeed what happens sometimes. So, in this case, I'm going to put either the DSCR as use DSRA as maturity payment. Okay, and so we're going to put a true and false and see whether we have an extraordinary big blip in the cash flows, or alternatively, whether we take the DSRA and adjust it, or use the DSRA as a means to pay off the last debt. Now, if we use the DSRA to pay off that last debt, that means we essentially have more cash flows, and we can increase the cash flows. So let's kind of illustrate this. Now, the first year debt service, I'm going to cheat and take our first year debt service here. And this is an annual example. So if this is an annual debt service, then we'll take this one and multiply it by the 6 divided by the 12. So that means we have an increase in the cost of our total project cost. Okay, and now let's go down all the way to the equity IRR. Now in the equity IRR, see, there is a problem here, because we need to subtract 57, and we have to add 35, which is the CFADS, and 30. We need to know when we're going to get this DSRA back. So let's just do this. I'm not going to do that like that. I'm going to say, well, the time in which you get the DSRA back is when this equals the final DSRA period. Shift Control R twice, and then we have this this period. So if our DSRA is 86.7, we can just press F4 and multiply. Oops. Times that. Okay, and then we look at our standard kind of case, and we have this big increase in cash flow in the last period. We also have higher cash flows in all the rest of the periods because we haven't refinanced it all. Maybe we put 19 here. So when we do that, we have a big increase in cash flow in period 19. Okay. And let's keep going. Now, if instead we say, okay, I would like to increase the size of the loan. So this is the present value of our debt service. Now, if we are going to allow this DSRA to be used as paying the debt service, we can add something. I should tell you right now that, so I'm going to take the NPV at the interest rate of all the DSRA. Now there are two points here. One is that the interest income could have been added to this. I didn't put any interest income in there. And in that case, if the interest income was at 5%, we would have, I suppose, got to the same level. And the second thing is that there are a whole lot of formulas here. It's not the simple first formula that kind of I showed you. It's all the rest of them. So if we can add some additional debt capacity here, that's what we'll do. Now, if we added the debt capacity, you notice that we never have repaid the debt. But if we just use the multiply this by the DSRA. Okay, now luckily, that doesn't make any sense at all, but okay, this should have, okay, I had a break here, excuse me. Now I'm a little discombobulated, but the video thing didn't work properly. It's my fault, not its fault. I'm going to put a 15-year debt back in. I don't know why. And then now, when we look at our debt balance, here it goes down to 0 when we have a false. And it also, here's the good news, when we put in true, we have a higher debt balance, but the same initial debt service. Essentially, we have a little bit of a bullet payment right at the end. It's really what this almost is. And this bullet payment allows you to increase the debt capacity and, at least in all these years except the last one, achieve the same debt service coverage ratio. That's the idea. Okay. And now let's finish this up. And if we finish this up, we can say, well, okay, does it really make much of a difference? Now, if we have 6 months debt service reserve account, your eyes should, I hope, be focusing on the equity IRR. Project IRR doesn't change, the pure cash flows. Now, if we put false, up 10.7, true, 10.38. So we did get a little bit extra. How nice. If it's a 24-month debt service reserve account, we get a little more. Okay, and if we have a higher IRR, meaning we're taking more advantage of leverage, it probably won't make much difference. Let's put 6 months in there again. 13.48 versus 13.06. Oh, that made a big difference. For me, that's a tiny little trick, but a kind of an important difference, and it offsets the some of the pain of the DSRA. Now, in the earlier analysis, we kind of said, well, what happens if you fund the DSRA with a letter of credit versus, you know, oh, this has a high IRR. Oh, God. This time, it's hardly making a difference. God knows what happened. But the, oh, this is not finished. Excuse me. This one's the one that's finished. Uh, you know, then, ooh, it made a really big difference. But how much of that can we take away some of the problems with the DSRA by allowing you to use it as a maturity payment at the very end and essentially getting more debt? You kind of get more debt to offset the DSRA. An illustration of some of the interesting little complexities, and also I'm going to be putting in the website some of these formulas that you have to apply. Bye. Goodbye. Goodbye.